I'm Justin Nickerson, General Manager of Windriver Spas.
And my name is Nelson Torres, and I'm in charge of operations for Windriver Spas.
Today we're going to be going over some general basic startup and orientation procedures with the tubs, how to get into the cabinet, how to take care of the chemicals, just some of the basic stuff to run you through.
I'm going to start off by showing you how to locate and remove your equipment panel. First of all, locating where your equipment site is. It's very easy. You walk around your tub, and wherever you find these rectangular vents, that tells me that this is the equipment panel, the front of the spa. This is where all the components are located. You can usually tell also by where the headset or the main control is. Now, removing these panels so that the electrician or whoever's going to wire it is going to require a T20 torque wrench. In case your electrician or whoever's wiring it does not have one, Windriver provides one in our drain cap area. So you look at your front equipment panel, you'll notice you got a round knob somewhere in front. You pull it out, you unscrew your cap. This is just a cap. This is for your drain. You usually drain the spa, you literally would open and close, put a hose bib and drain it where you want. There is a rubber gasket, and you see this piece of tape holds a torque wrench. It is a spare. If for some reason someone lost it, you can pick one up at your local hardware store. It's called a torque wrench T20. Close your bib, hose bib. Basically, you start by pulling out the screws about 3/4 of the way. You don't need necessarily to pull them out all the way. Now, this front equipment panel is in 3 stages. There's 3 compartments here, 3 panels. So we start by removing the center one first. Again, just a reminder, trim pieces are fake. They're just to hide the gaps. And you move it aside. You remove your insulation panels like so. And this is where my main equipment, the main spa pack control is, and this is where you got to get the electrical. Here on the side, it's an 1.25 inch hole so that you can run your conduit into. Once the electrical is all done, all buttoned up, you'll go ahead and put your insulation panels back. Make sure the reflector side is facing in, okay? And then what you want to do is you center it. Grab the center, push up, tuck it under the lip, and push it in. Now, it's very important, whoever wires it, whoever pulled these panels, make sure that they put them back nice and snug. Else there'll be a gap, rodents could get in, so make sure that the electrician finishes up a nice clean job when he's done. And with your T20 torque wrench, you just go ahead and screw it all back in place. Like so, nice and snug, no gaps, no rodents are gonna get in. Also, if the electrician drills a hole anywhere in the cabinet, make sure he seals it. Make sure he puts silicone so that animals don't get in there. Else you're going to notice you'll get a lot of critters in there. And there you go. Nice and snug, clean job. And that's what you want to look for when you put your panels back.
Thanks, Nelson, for showing us how to get into the equipment area and wire the tub up. Now that we know how to do that, the next step is filling it up with water and getting it going. So anytime you fill the spa, the best way to fill it, and really the only way to fill it, is through the filter area. And the filter area on all of our spas is either going to be in the corner of one of your models, or it's going to be towards the center of one of the insides of the spa. It's always identified by this round filter basket in here. This is a telescopic filter basket that's going to rise and fall with the water level. To fill it, what you want to do is you actually want to remove this. This is a quick turn to the left, about 1/8 of a turn or so, and it'll just pull right out. Underneath that, you have a basket, and the basket's going to pull right out as well. So you're just going to take that and remove that from the spa. There's a filter that sits down in here as well, and we'll go over some of the filter maintenance in another video. But ultimately what you want to do is put the hose either all the way down through the filter and into the tube down at the bottom, or just take the filter out and put the hose all the way down in. There's a fitting and a hole in the bottom of the filter housing that you'll see, and fill it through there. The purpose of filling it through the filter is really just to make it easier to get started. It's going to fill up the pumps, the plumbing, all the inside of the equipment area first, and then it fills up the body of water. So it eliminates airlocks in the motors. There's nothing you have to worry about getting in there, taking care of. Once it's full, always make sure that it's completely full before you turn the power on. But now that you have power to it and now that the spa is full, you're going to be able to get it going. Typical water level in the spa is always going to be 2 to 3 inches above that filter area. So as you can see in this tub here, it's going to be 2 to 3 inches above that. A general rule of thumb, because all the models are a little different, you can usually assume that it's always around midway to the top or just below the neck jet, somewhere in that range. Some models are going to be a little deeper, some are a little more, but again, the most important thing is as long as you're covering the filter area, you're going to have plenty of water in the spa. Always make sure that the tub is filled with water before you turn the power on. But once the tub is full, go ahead and turn the power on and it'll start itself going. Water temperature automatically sets itself to 100 degrees and it goes through a 5-minute startup cycle as well. So within 5 minutes of you turning the power on, what's going to happen is you're going to see a couple different programming codes on the control and it'll tell you that it's initializing. Within that 5-minute period, the circulation pump will prime itself and you'll see this red heat indicator come on saying that the spa is heating. And then you will also have the jet pumps come on individually on low speed and high speed just as a purge cycle, and that'll be within that 5-minute period. It's a 1-minute purge cycle on both of those jet pumps. It happens automatically. You don't have to touch anything, but if you wanted to, you could always force it past that as well. But once you have it running, within 4 to 6 hours, it's going to heat up to temperature, maybe 8 hours if it's really cold water, but you'll be ready to hot tub in no time.
Now that Justin has shown you how to properly fill the tub and get it started, I'm going to show you the operations of each of the dials up on the top rail of the spa. First, we're going to start off with this one here. If you notice, it says on and off, and it has little dots, almost like air bubbles. This basically is to let air flow through the jet for the hydrotherapy process. So when you open it, this will allow the air to be properly mixed with the water for the hydrotherapy end of the spa. Now the other dials, you're going to notice, these look a little different. These just say on and off and have rotating arrows. This will shut off and on your neck jets. This one here, if you have 2 of them on the same side, could be for your foot jets. The bigger ones, the bigger valve is called a water diverter. It'll move the water from one area of the spa to another. In this case, in this model, it will move it from the back of the seat to the front, or you could split it in between and use them both. Now as we walk around the tub, you're going to notice every seat has their controls next to them so that you don't get confused. This is going to be the air to allow for this seat. This is going to be on and off for the neck jets. We keep going around. This is going to be for the whirlpool jet, off and on. Now keep in mind, your model might not have a lot of these features. Some do, some don't. A little common sense goes a long way. Each control is right next to the seat. So if we just take our time, sit, and watch what they do and play with them, you can figure it out. It's very easy. There's nothing complicated about it. Now some come with a second auxiliary control. This is an extra control besides the main set. It just gives you functions to the light and to the jets on and off. The tub shuts off every 15 to 20 minutes. That's a cycle. Lets you know how long you've been in there, and it also serves in case a child, someone has accidentally left it on and walked away. You don't want to find out 2 or 3 hours later that the tub has been running. So the tub times out, shuts off every 15 to 20 minutes. Not a problem. You wait a few minutes or whatever, you soak, you can easily turn it on and continue using your spa. You also need to keep in mind that each jet shuts off and on individually. So there is no such thing as one jet not working. We get a lot of calls and it's that their kids or someone came over and someone will tell me, hey, one jet is not working. It's impossible. We're in a manifold system. If half the chair is working, they all have to work. Someone has accidentally either turned it off or on, you know, that will obstruct the flow of water. So please keep that in mind. Now, some models will have a waterfall. The waterfall is controlled, and you'll see an on and off button here, and basically it'll trickle out. You could close it all the way or open it up all the way. Some of them have LED lights. Now, the problem with waterfalls is that if we were to totally close it off and not use the spa, let's say in a week, the water in that line would get stagnant. And then when you were to open it, it would contaminate the main chamber. So we always like the water to trickle out. So, you know, unless you use the tub every day, and then you could totally shut it off and turn it on. But, you know, a lot of us don't get to go out there every day. Some people do, some people don't. But what you want to do is always leave the water trickle out when the tub is not being used. Like that, you will never get stagnant water coming in your line. Now, if you do leave it on all the time, what tends to happen is you're going to get debris clogging up the jets and clogging up the waterfall, and it would look funny or not even. There's a simple process. You got two little notches. You could pop the faceplate off. Now, this is part of maintenance, and we'll get further into how to clean and maintain your waterfall. But there's two notches. You can pop the faceplate off. There's 4 little screws. You pull that out, and there's a screen there that you could clean. That's in case you accidentally always leave your waterfall on. It will get clogged with debris, and it will not look pretty. In this segment, I'm going to show you how to maintain and clean your waterfall. First, we start off by, you know, locating the waterfall. Once you located the waterfall, you're going to notice there's a couple of notches on either end of the waterfall. You get a sharp object, a flat screwdriver or a knife. Just pop the faceplate right off. You put it in that little notch, pry it up, go to the other side, pry it up, and what you do is you snap it off. Once you've snapped off the faceplate, you're going to notice there's 4 screws. They're Phillips, so you get a small Phillips head screwdriver and you unscrew them. Make sure that you don't drop them in the water or keep track of where they go. Now, once you've got all 4 of the screws out, then you grab the base of the waterfall and you pull it forward. The whole faceplate comes off. There is a gasket there. Make sure if it happens to come out, just put it right back in place. Not a big deal. You're going to notice the screen. Now, this is the screen that usually gets clogged. So again, you get something flat, a flat screwdriver or a knife. You just basically pry it up. Little common sense, comes right off. You clean it. You can also, if you notice any debris there, you can actually turn on the water a little bit, turn it off. That cleared the line. Once it's nice and clean, you just do everything backwards. Put the faceplate back on, put the body back on, put the screws, screw it back down, and then I'll put the faceplate back on. It's that simple. Okay. The waterfall, that's part of maintenance. So every time that you clean a filter, you know, make sure it's a nice beautiful day outside. You don't want to do it when it's below freezing. You don't want to drain a spa when it's below freezing. Pick beautiful, nice days. You don't want to have to thaw out a water hose or anything. Once everything is back together, and you're done.
Alright, so now that we know we've got the tub hooked up, we've got the tub filled with water, and we understand some of the controls on the top and what they do, we get into the basic maintenance of it. Part of the big advantage of a Windriver spa is that there's very little you have to do. There's not a lot of maintenance. What we get you set up with is a very simple kit. This is our basic startup kit. You're going to get a bottle of test strips, and this is going to be used to test the water. Really what you're testing for is pH and alkalinity. That's really all that we care about in this case. It's kind of like the oil in the car. We want it to be running good. The dichlor, this is what we use as our secondary oxidizer. The ozone, of course, which you learned about plenty, is our main oxidizer, and the secondary oxidizer being the dichlor. You're going to use a half a teaspoon per person whenever you get out of the spa, and I'll go over that in a little bit more detail. You've got a pH decreaser, and whenever I say we check for the pH and alkalinity, this is a pretty simple test where it's basically going to be high or low or right in the okay range, and you're going to use these different adjusters. You've got a pH up and down and an alkalinity up to help adjust those in the okay range, and then you have the filter cleaner here that's going to be for the filter maintenance. So that's the general overview of everything that we have here. Getting a little bit more specific, the test strips again. Like I mentioned, you're going to test for pH and alkalinity. We just use the AquaCheck yellow test strips. On the back of the bottle here, there's 4 different tests that you can test for. 2 of them we do not test for necessarily. This is an aftermarket strip that you could use for swimming pools, fish tanks, anything. Again, we really just care about the pH and alkalinity. So the pH is this top one here, and there's an okay range on there between 7.2 and 7.6. And then the alkalinity is this greenish test, the third one down, and that one has the okay range between 80 and 120 parts per million with the alkalinity. With these tests, the pH and alkalinity, it's a very simple litmus paper. Basically, you're going to take the strip. There is a bunch of strips in here, and you're going to hold these from the bottom up, and it's just going to match the color basically. So you're going to go from the top to the bottom. In this case, you just dip the strip in the water for a couple seconds, pull the strip out, and you're just going to match the colors. And so in this case, we're perhaps a little bit high on the pH, but we're right in the upper part of the okay range. And then the alkalinity, we're going to be towards the lower part of the alkalinity range, between that 40 and 80 mark right there. So in this particular case, if it was at your house and you were testing it, you would use 1 capful of the alkalinity up to raise it up 1 color change, and 1 capful of the pH down to bring it down 1 color change. A good rule of thumb for all the alkalinity and pH is 1 level capful is equal to about 1 color change. One important note with these, so this is the pH down, which we would want to come down a full cap or a full color. So I'm going to get 1 level cap of the pH decreaser, and I'm just going to put that into the spa. And we also want to raise the alkalinity in this case, so I'm going to use the alkalinity increaser, and we wanted to go up 1 color change on that as well. So I'm going to take this one with 1 good solid level cap and put in that one. Keep in mind that it takes 4 to 6 hours for the pH and alkalinity adjusters to do what they want to do. So if you were to test this again right away, it's going to read exactly the same thing. Nothing's going to change. So what we ask you to do is just assume that it's doing what it's supposed to. Make your adjustment, walk away for 4 to 6 hours, come back, and it should be fine. You don't even need to test it again. Once you add any chemicals, there's a feature on the controls themselves that you're going to use to stir everything. It's a stir button on here. And what that does is illustrated right there. I shut it off, but it's a 3-minute timed cycle. Anytime you hit that stir button, it's going to come on for 3 minutes and shut off. So it'll stir everything, get the chemical, whatever you added, through the entire body of water, and then it just shuts off. So you can hit it, walk away, 3 minutes later it'll shut down. The pH and alkalinity is a weekly test, so once a week you're going to test it, make the adjustments if you need to. Once it's in the okay range, generally you don't have to adjust it again. It does a really good job of staying stable because we don't use a lot of other chemicals in there. So once you're in that range, you're probably okay. If you're going to keep anything from this video, the most important thing that you need to know is the dichlor. We use a chlorinated concentrate for our secondary sanitizer to help kill bacteria, and really its only purpose is to clean up behind you. One of the most important things with a hot tub is as you're in that water, you have things coming off your body, the sweat, the bacteria, and so whenever you exit the tub, that's whenever the water is the dirtiest. So what we ask you to do is use a half a teaspoon per person whenever you get out of the tub of the dichlor, and you would do the same thing, throw it in and hit the stir button. In lieu of having a half a teaspoon measuring cup for individual people, what I typically do, or what we recommend, is just enough to cover the bottom of the cap. So it's not a lot, it's very, very little. That's even maybe a little too much. But you want just enough to cover the bottom of the cap. That's close to a teaspoon, and you would throw that in if it was a couple people. But on average, a half a teaspoon per person whenever you get out of the spa. So same concept, you would get out, you would put in a half a teaspoon or a teaspoon, just throw it into the water, and then you would hit the stir button and it would come on for 3 minutes, cycle through the entire body of water, get the chlorine through the jet lines. One of the best things about the chlorine and why we like it is that it burns off clean within 4 to 6 hours. It's only in the water for a short period of time, and then it's gone out of the water. So by the next morning with a cup of coffee, you go out there, it's gonna be clean, fresh water. There's no chlorine, no bromine, there's no chemicals. You don't have to rinse off whenever you get out, it's just very clean. That's going to be on a usage basis. If you use the tub, throw in the chlorine. If you don't use the spa, you don't need to use this necessarily. If you're not using the tub for an extended period of time, we still recommend using a teaspoon every week or a couple teaspoons every couple weeks, just to kind of help the ozone with a little bit of the bacteria that it's not able to kill. Now that you've got the chlorine down, the last maintenance that we ask you to do, again, you've got the weekly maintenance with the pH and alkalinity. You would have the daily maintenance, or usage maintenance rather, with the dichlor, and using the dichlor whenever you get out. And then you have the quarterly maintenance and the yearly maintenance, if you will. With the quarterly maintenance, you're going to do a filter cleaning solution. The filter cleaning solution is just a soaking solution. It's designed to help break up all the lotions and oils and everything that's on the filter. So as we talked about in the initial startup, where that filter area is, and turning that basket 1/8 of a turn to the left and pulling the basket out, you're going to pull the filter out. One quick important note here, on the control itself, there is one great option on here that you'll have in any of our newer spas, and certainly moving forward. In the settings tab, there's a settings button here with a little wrench and a gear on it. If you go into the settings tab, or the settings tab, you'll notice that there's a button that says hold. This hold button, so as you can notice right now, the tub just shut down. Even though we still have power to the tub, it's holding for 60 minutes. Now that you have the power either turned off or you've hit the hold button on the control to shut the power down to the circulation pump, you can pull the filter out. It's really, really important to do that. Either hit the hold button there and shut it down for 60 minutes, or turn the power off at the breaker, mainly because that circulation pump runs all the time. It's a 24-hour continuous clean motor. Any solid debris that's on that filter or in that basket, you want to avoid getting it sucked down into the system, because it could affect the way that the ozone draws. It could certainly affect the heating. You just want to make sure that you don't do that. So once the power's off and you've hit that hold button, the filter, if you remember how to take that off, it's just that quick turn to the left and that top cap comes off. That's that telescopic filter that I showed you how to remove whenever you're filling the tub. And underneath that is that basket that's going to capture the solid debris. This is going to get hair, lint, leaves, bugs. This you can do as often as you want. The more often you clean this basket and the more often you clean the filter, the better. We recommend at least once or twice a month. If you do it every week, that's even better. But this is probably what you're going to do the most, is cleaning this filter. So pull this basket out, get all the hair, lint, leaves, bugs, clean that off. So once you have the basket removed and you have all the solid debris taken out of that, the filter sits down underneath that. The filter, it's just a paper cartridge. It looks like this. It's designed to capture the lotions and the oils. In the same time frame, at least once a month, maybe even a couple times a month is better. But what we recommend that you do is just pull it out, and you don't need to spend a lot of time with it. Just a jet nozzle on the end of a garden hose. Get a garden hose, a good jet pressure on the end of it, and just rinse it off really good. Spend 3 minutes, 5 minutes with it. It'll be a staggering difference as to how dirty this filter comes out. Even if the tub is brand new, it captures a lot of stuff. All the lotions, oils, hair, lint, leaves, bugs, everything that comes off the body, anything that's in your city water or well water is going to get caught in this filter. So pull this out regularly and rinse it really well. If you pull it out every couple of weeks or once a month even and rinse it off, it goes a long way in keeping your tub clean, keeping your tub clean, keeping your tub clear, keeping it fresh. One other quick note is that this will capture soap as well. So anything that's on your bathing attire. We certainly don't recommend wearing cottons, jeans, any heavier materials, t-shirts, things like that. You want to make sure that you restrict your bathing wear to typical bathing wear. So nylons, lighter materials, and you're not getting them dirty. You don't need to wash them every time you get out of the hot tub. Just hang them up to dry, use them next time. If you run them periodically in the wash, because even bathing suit material sometimes harbors that soap. We use a lot of soap in our washes, and even though it goes through the rinse cycle in the washing machine, it's still going to capture some of that soap in there. It doesn't come out. When it comes out is whenever you turn the jets on, and it's going to beat all that soap out of your material, and then you'll get foam in the hot tub. So if you do that, same thing. All that soap is going to get caught in the filter. Pull the filter out maybe 2 days in a row. Rinse it really good with that high pressure nozzle. If your water is cloudy, we'll go into some of that other maintenance as well. But those are the simple things that you can do. Is really taking care of the filter is going to go a long way in getting rid of all of that stuff. The cloudy water, the soapy water, foamy water, dirty water, any of that stuff. If you do that periodically, it works great. And then we also get you set up with a filter cleaning solution, and the filter cleaning solution is a soaking solution. Along with the weekly or every other week or once a month maintenance with just rinsing the filter really well, the other thing that we get you set up with is a filter cleaning solution. And this is really just a soaking solution. It's really designed to break down those lotions and oils and stuff that the filter is going to capture and clean it really well. The bottle itself, it's made by Leisure Time. They recommend using the full bottle to clean it with. We'd recommend using half of the bottle. We're only cleaning one filter, and if you use too much of this, because it is like a soap basically, it's really difficult to get all the chemical off of the filter. But it's a 4 to 6 hour soak. What you're going to do is same concept, turn the power off, hit the hold button on your topside control so it shuts down for 60 minutes, and you're going to pull the filter out and stick the filter in a bucket of warm water. So if that's a 5-gallon bucket we supplied you with, great. If you don't have that, use any bucket or anything that's going to submerge the filter completely. Fill it up with warm water and use half of this bottle and just let it soak for that 4 to 6 hour period. Once it's done soaking, that's when you want to get that jet pressure, that high pressure nozzle on the end of the garden hose again, and you're going to spend a good 5, 10, maybe 20 minutes in rinsing this filter off as good as you possibly can. Get as much of the chemical off of there as you can, otherwise you will end up with a bubble bath if you don't get all that chemical off. What that's going to do is that just gets you a longer life out of your filter. So if you use the filter cleaning solution, you're going to get a couple years out of the filter, maybe a little longer. If you don't use the filter cleaning solution, you're going to get a year typically per filter. Once you have the filter clean, whether you did the weekly rinse or the monthly rinse with it, or you did the quarterly deep soak, you can put the filter back in. And the filter back in is just a reverse process of taking it out. The filter goes in first, and it's going to sit down all the way in the bottom. Then you're going to take the basket and put the basket down in there, and that's going to sit flush with the top of the filter area there. And then the skimmer weir here just sits right back on there, and just a quick turn to the right in this case, and that filter basket is assembled, back on, ready to go. Once you have the filter back in there, either turn the power back on at the hot tub or at the breaker where you shut the power off, or you can hit the back button on the control where that hold cycle is, and it'll automatically restart and get going. So that really sums up the maintenance. There isn't a whole lot to it again. You've got your pH and your alkalinity that you're going to do on a weekly basis. You've got the dichlor that you're going to use the half a teaspoon per person whenever you get out of the spa, and then that quarterly maintenance with the filter cleaning solution. If you're going to do that quarterly, every 6 months, your choice on that again, but we certainly recommend taking care of it. Beyond that, the last little bit of the maintenance is draining and cleaning the tub. Once a year at least, even if the water is crystal clear and clean and ready to go, at least once a year you're going to want to clean or drain and clean the hot tub completely. To drain the tub, first thing first, always turn the power off. This time you're not going to use the hold cycle for the power because it's going to take you longer than an hour to drain the tub and fill it back up. So turn the power off at the breaker, wherever your electrician located it at. Hopefully you know. If you can't find it, call us and let us know. We'll see if we can help you locate it. And all the spas are going to be the same as far as the drain. It's always going to look like this black cap right here, at least anything relatively new. And this just pulls out. That's also where that little T20 bit is located, just in case you don't have it pulling the panels off. It's always going to be attached to it. Whenever you pull this out, this black cap is literally just that, just a cap. This is going to unscrew. Once you have that unscrewed, you'll see the valve here. This valve, it's just a simple on and off valve, but you can hook a hose up to this green piece and run the hose wherever you want. Keep in mind that it's a gravity-fed drain. So with gravity, of course, if you have the hose running uphill or it's going to an area that it's not going to drain quickly, it's going to be real long for it to drain, or it's going to take a long time for it to drain. Once you have your hose running downhill, you can open up the valve and it'll drain out. It takes about 4 to 6 hours for it to completely drain, so it's very slow because it is just a gravity-fed drain. There's no pump, there's no motor that's pushing it. It's just gonna drain out of the spa from gravity. But once it's drained, then you can go ahead and close the valve and put your cap back on, and that's where you're going to clean the interior of the tub if you wanted to. So once this is screwed on, one quick note with the cap as well. One quick note with the cap is if you notice on the inside there's a rubber gasket, just like a high pressure nozzle hose would or a hose cap would. There's a rubber gasket in here that seals. That's a big part of keeping the tub from leaking at that drain, is you got to make sure that that gasket is in there and positioned properly. And if you're missing one, you can pick it up at any hardware store. We certainly have them in stock as well if you need one. But that goes inside there all the way, and then that's going to thread back on to the drain there. And once that's threaded all the way back on, you can go ahead and put the drain back in the hot tub. And that's draining the tub. Once the spa is drained, you can clean the inside of the shell with denatured alcohol. That's the best thing you can clean it with. It's the only thing we recommend to clean it with. Denatured alcohol, we do stock at either one of our showrooms, or you can get it at Home Depot, Lowe's, A&A Trading Post, any hardware store as well. We'll have it for you. Drain it all the way down, get as much of the water out of the tub as you possibly can. Again, you're going to have a couple low-lying areas in the spa on the bottom of the seats that you might have to bail a little bit of the water. Use a shop vac to vacuum out all the water. Use a towel, use a cup to bail it out. But once the tub is dry, then you can just use paper towel and denatured alcohol, wipe down the surface if you'd like to, and then you start the process over again and filling it up with putting the hose in the filter area, making sure that it's all the way down there in the bottom. Fill the tub up and you're right back at the beginning where you started with getting it going. Make sure the tub is completely filled with water again. Turn the power back on and you're ready to go. Keep enjoying the hot tub. Tub running. Now that you have the tub running, you get to play with the controls. The controls are very intuitive. It's very similar to a smartphone where it's a touch screen. It's not as sensitive as a smartphone in that it's not going to be just a simple touch to do things because it doesn't quite sense the heat. It's got a separate layer in there. So you actually need to apply a little bit of pressure to the buttons to get them to actually do something. I'll go over the basic controls on the top here, and then I'll get a little bit more in depth on each individual control. You've got the time on the top up here. You've got a control here, or a couple arrows in a circle on the side here, and what that does is that actually inverts the control whether you're inside or outside of the spa. So if you're inside the tub, you can look at it inside. If you're outside of the tub, you simply just turn it around and you can control it from the outside of the tub as well. Your temperature shows pretty clearly right in the center of the display. Currently this tub is at 100 degrees and the set temperature is at 100 degrees, and I just moved it up to 101, as you can see, and the little heater came on to heat it up to 101. It'll go back to the set temperature, the actual temperature of the water, if you don't touch it for a second or two. So in this case, if you wanted to go up, you would go up, and the max temperature is going to be 104. If you want it cooler, of course, you would just hit the down arrow and it would go down. And that's the way that you would control the temperature on the hot tub. Typical water temperature is somewhere around 100 degrees. Most people anywhere from 100 to 104. You get to choose that. That's the fun part. Beyond that, once you set the temperature, you've got 4 other controls or 4 other buttons on the main overlay. One of them is going to be for the light. Whenever you turn the light on, it's going to turn the light on. With the LED lights on all of our models, it's rotating functions on the lights, and every time you turn the light off and you turn the light back on, it'll rotate to the next stage. Some of the colors are stagnant, so you can have just blue or just green or just red, and some of them rotate, so it'll go from blue to green to red to purple to yellow, etc. The other function that you have is the jet function. That's the one that you're probably going to be using the most. You're going to hit the jet button, and that actually takes you into a sub-menu of jet buttons. You've got the circulation pump that is always running, constant. You'll either have jet 1 or jet 1 and jet 2. The way that these operate is if you hit it once, you'll get low speed. If you hit it a second time, you'll get high speed. And if you hit it a third time, it'll turn the jet pump off. It operates the same for jet pump 1 and the same for jet pump 2. So low speed, high speed, off. There's a stir button down below jet 1, and what the stir button is designed to do, as we spoke about in the chemicals of the startup, is it will turn the jet pumps on for around 3 minutes, give or take a little bit, around 3 minutes, and then shut off. Anytime you add the dichlor whenever you get out of the hot tub, anytime you add the pH and alkalinity adjusters, anytime you add any chemical to the hot tub, it's always a good idea to hit that stir button, because it'll circulate everything through the entire body of water, through the lines, through the jet pumps everywhere, and it'll affect the entire body of water, not just sink to the bottom and dissipate over time. So you've got a jet button, jet 2 button, if you have a jet 2, the stir button, and then the circulation button, which will always be going. Anytime you're in a sub menu or a second menu, you'll see in the top corner here, in the top left corner, you will have a back arrow, and that will simply get you back to the previous home menu. Whenever you're at the previous home menu again, we've got the light button, the jet button. There's an optional button down here in the bottom left corner that would take you to the music player section. If your Windriver spa is equipped with the Windriver audio system, this will be activated and you will be able to use it. If you do not have the audio system, it doesn't do anything. You won't be able to get in there, you won't be able to press it, it won't do anything. It is a non-existent button. The only last button on here that we have is the settings button. Inside the settings button, you've actually got a few different submenus that you can get into. On the main level here, you've got heat. If you go into the heat, you're going to have the heat mode is ready and the temperature range is high. It should always be that. You should never change it. This is a menu that you don't need to change anything in, but just so you know it's there. You've got the time is the second one. The time you simply set by touching the time, and you can go up or down on the time. For the hour, you can do the same thing with the minutes, and once you have it, you would click the check button, and that gets you to the time of the day. The next button that you have is the hold button. I did speak about the hold button in the startup, where if you hit the hold button, what that does, well, that will actually shut down the system for 60 minutes. You have 60 minutes without anything running on the hot tub, so if you wanted to do a filter clean or do some general maintenance to the hot tub, like cleaning out the waterfall or something other than that, you're certainly more than welcome to do that. You don't use the hold for draining the hot tub or anything else. It's simply used for the basic, if you just need anything less than 60 minutes. On the main screen, you have these 6 different options. You'll notice at the bottom, you've got the arrow that will take you to the second set. There's a units button, which you've got a temperature display. You can choose to look at Fahrenheit or Celsius. The last option that you have on here is the utilities button, and the utilities button will get you to 3 other options here. You have a panel option, a faults option, and a GFCI test button on there as well. The panel button is a relatively important one, really the only one in here that you'll care about. And what that does is that actually sets the default light on the control itself. So what that means, it's asleep after 1 minute in this case, and that's the actual light on this panel. So if I was to not touch anything for 1 minute, this panel itself will go into a sleep mode and the light will shut off. If you want it longer than that, you can always increase it. I believe the highest that it goes to is 30 minutes, and you can set it to whatever you want and hit the check button, and then it will go into whatever mode you want it to. So now in this case, 12 minutes later, this light will shut off. Most people, however, especially if you're out there at night hanging out in the hot tub, probably don't want the extra lights. 60 minutes, as a matter of fact, is the highest that it goes to. So 60 minutes is going to be the highest it goes to. 1 minute is the lowest that it goes to. You would check it right there, and I believe that that's also the default setting on it now. So after 1 minute, it'll shut off and it'll just go black, and then you have peace and quiet. The second one that you have on here is the faults. This is simply just a log. Don't necessarily care about what it has to say. This is just going to be different programming codes or different faults that it goes into anytime that you put it in the hold pattern and such like that, if you had any error codes come on there as far as flow and such related as well. The last one that you have is a GFCI test. If you wanted to test the GFI itself, this will actually simulate a bad GFCI, and you can hit the test button on there, and that should, if your GFCI was wired correctly and your electrician did a good job, it will actually trip the GFCI, and then you would have to go reset the breaker. I'm going to choose not to at this point. One of the most important things with this control is that there's only a small handful of things that you really need to set. All you're really setting is the temperature itself. If you want the temperature hotter, turn the temperature up. If you want the temperature cooler, turn the temperature down. You're going to be setting the temperature, you're going to be turning the light on and off, and you're going to be turning the jets on and off. You're going to be setting the temperature, you're going to be turning the light on and off, and you're going to be turning the jets on and off individually as well as using the stir button. Beyond that, there's really nothing in the settings unless you wanted to set the time, or you wanted to use the hold button, or you wanted to see Celsius, something along those lines. It's very basic, but there's really nothing that you have to do in any of those menus.
I just want to give you a quick review of everything we went over regarding your startup. Couple things that are very important. Obviously, make sure the tub is up to water level, full of water, before you turn it on. Should be right under your pillows. This should be always floating. That's a good way of knowing that you're up at water level. Once it's full, you turn it on. Second thing is, every time you step out of your spa, you throw in a little bit of dichlor, half a teaspoon per person when you're done for the evening. You need to rinse your filter every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the use of the spa. The more you clean the filter, the cleaner your water is going to look. Also, you have to drain your spa. Most of our customers, about every 6 months. If you don't like to do it every 6 months, at least once a year. But on average, we try to do it in the spring and then right before the winter months. Don't try to do it when it's 30 degrees outside. We don't recommend that. Another key thing is never leave the tub empty. Empty tubs, you freeze damage, dry rot, there's so many things. But anyway, things to remember. Rinse the filter every 2 to 4 weeks. You shock your water with dichlor when you step out. And make sure that you add water and keep your water level up. Those are just reminders of everything we did. This quick review.